In Abraham Herschel's book, The Prophets, he says, extremely minute yet vital entities formerly unknown to the mind were suddenly disclosed by the microscope. What seems to be exaggeration is often only a deeper penetration. In 1992, Warner Brothers gave the microscope to Tim Burton and said, make a Tim Burton movie. And like The Prophets, Burton's vision of Gotham in Batman Returns is designed to shock in order to unmask a notoriously enigmatic personality that generations of storytellers have struggled to interpret. On this Live a Meaningful Story podcast, we search for the stories at the heart of this world in order to piece together our own fractured identities, because traumatic experiences at any age in life can split us right down the center. We develop strategies just to survive, and these strategies are the masks that we wear in our daily lives. Concerning Bruce Wayne, Tim Burton has stated, he's a weird character. He's somebody who likes to remain hidden and in some ways repressed. And that's a hard thing to portray in extreme comic book movies. Thus, Burton developed 3 extreme antagonists to represent what Bruce Wayne keeps hidden in the shadows: Penguin, Catwoman, and Max Schreck. This circus act performs on a nightly basis to attack and ultimately transform Bruce Wayne's psyche. These villains represent Burton's probing microscope that acts as its own bat symbol in order to shine a light onto Bruce Wayne. Because in Batman Returns, men who abuse power create a world full of masks. And in a world full of masks, authenticity is heroism. Michael Keaton's Batman is the hero that Gotham doesn't deserve, but is exactly the one that it needs right now. Join us as we go into the shadows and the sewers to confront our own inner demons, armed with rocket-strapped penguins, black latex whips, razor-sharp claws, circus gangs, monkey messengers, jack-in-the-box machine guns, unsmoked cigars in front coat pockets, umbrella copters, and motorized duck boats. What Tim Burton flushed, we are about to flaunt.
Welcome to the Live a Meaningful Story podcast, where we analyze stories and films that help us make sense of life. We are 4 friends with backgrounds in storytelling, filmmaking, teaching, and narrative therapy. Join us on our quest towards telling and living our stories more meaningfully.
I'm Derek Hatch.
My name is Nick Natal.
Hello, everybody. I'm Joseph Wilson.
I'm Jason Lynn.
Oh, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Live a Meaningful Story podcast. We have Joseph Wilson on my left.
Yep.
We have Jason Lynn on my left front corner.
Diagonal.
In this corner.
Front corner. In your corner.
And we have a very special guest today, the host of Live a Meaningful Story podcast and the creator of all things narrative, Derek Hatch. Say what up, Derek.
Today I'm just a guest, so what up?
He's actually never here when we record, guys.
Yeah, he phones it in. Yeah. We sit here with a little cutout.
So many of you might not know this, but there's only 2 reasons why I'm on this podcast to begin with, and that's to have respect for The Last Jedi and Batman Returns. It is my only mission here. It's not about y'all or anybody else. It is those 2 movies.
And I respect that.
Defend.
It's been about 2 years. It's been about 2 years now since that conversation that me and Derek had at
Actually,
the back
almost
of
3.
3 years that we had
3
when we were talking about The Last Jedi, and that led to Batman Returns and just how different we were when we started to realize our experiences of the films.
Yep.
And that's caused a journey through all kinds of films and all kinds of self-reflection to see how flawed we are when we're watching film. I have learned more in these 3 years than maybe any point in my life because I've learned what films you guys have liked and why you like them. Mm-hmm. And the last couple of films, Unlocking American Psycho, The Blob, Inglourious Bastards, I wouldn't have seen these things, and it enriches everything.
Yeah.
So it's my turn to enrich some movies for y'all.
That's right.
And we're actually going to do The Last Jedi and Batman Returns.
You've been tricked.
No,
Last Jedi is the villain of this movie.
Yeah, I was going to say, The Last Jedi is your horse story.
That's his secret penguin plot.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the names I've been drawing up on the notepad.
Yeah, that's what he's been cooking up in the sewer.
It's so good.
You thought it was notes for this. It was actually for The Last Jedi.
We brought Nick to the surface and thought he was all good, and he's just been cooking this up the whole time.
Oh, man.
So what's next? Where do we go from here?
So before we do the Letterboxd,
Letterboxd.
I think it's fun that we just saw this movie together a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
We just watched it. Had a great time. So I've seen Batman Returns. I watched it growing up. For the first episode that Joe, Jason, and I ever did together was on Batman.
Mm-hmm.
And I said in that episode that Batman Returns is one of the worst Batman movies ever.
Mhm.
I gave it...
You said that?
Yeah,
I ranked it 10 out of 12 of all theatrically released Batman films. Actually, no. I think I ranked it 11. Batman Robin was the only one.
Because remember we used
below
to
it.
We used to when we used to work together, we drove on the vans together and used to talk and rate our different movies and stuff like that.
I gave Batman Returns a really horrible low rating. Listen, so before we get going with Letterboxd in this conversation, I just want to personally repent. This is my on-air repentance, okay? Because
this is my confession.
This is my confession. Oh yeah, and then
this is so tied together.
it is.
I have to return some videotapes, by the way.
When we were driving to MegaCon a couple years ago, Nick put Batman Returns on in the car and plugged it into my speakers, and we were forced to listen to Batman Returns.
Forced.
Blessed.
Well, hold on.
Well, me and Joe chose.
Yeah, we chose to watch it and listen to it.
And I was sitting here going, okay, what does he see in this? What does he see? He gets so much enjoyment out of this movie. And over the years, as I have gone back and rewatched it and thought about it, I just want to say for the record, and I have the proof right here for you all, okay? Batman Returns has gone from being one of my least favorite Batman superhero films to number 3.
Wow.
Above Matt Reeves, above Zack Snyder. I'll tell you why later. I have him still neck and neck with The Dark Knight. But it is my third favorite Batman film. I give it an 8 out of 10.
That's wild. You went from a 1.
Adore this film now.
That's crazy.
And we're going to talk about why.
Whoa, what's number 1?
Batman
Phantom.
Mask of the Phantasm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mask of the Phantom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's my favorite Batman.
That is his favorite. That is his favorite. Mm-hmm.
Wow, he said adore, folks.
Yeah.
I adore this movie now.
Adore.
And this is the movie that Nick has single-handedly changed my outlook and opinion on more than any other movie we've ever talked about. And that's before this conversation even started.
Yeah.
So you guys are in for something really special. Let's get into the Letterboxd and then we'll dive in.
Simply the Bat, the Cat, and the Penguin. Batman must face the Penguin, a sewer-dwelling gang leader intent on being accepted into Gotham society. Meanwhile, another Gotham resident finds herself transformed into Catwoman and is out for revenge.
Okay.
That's all they give us.
Wasn't that the tagline for the movie? Like the marketing was like the bat, the cat, and the bird.
And the penguin.
Yeah.
That is pretty dope, though. I like that.
So penguins and bats are both winged creatures in a sense.
But one is grounded and one is
exactly.
Above
The penguin can't actually fly. Let's go back to our Fight Club reference, right? Penguins can't actually fly. They're birds that are limited by the ground.
Yeah.
Bats, on the other hand, are not actually considered birds. I don't even know.
Mammals.
Yeah, they're considered mammals. So they're like this anomaly in that they can fly, but they don't conform. So both of them are these weird, freaky animals, and then you throw a cat in the middle of it.
Mm-hmm. Cats are just predators.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so at first, just the movie's insane. It's nothing is normal about this film.
Honestly.
The performances are so outlandish, so unrealistic, but they're fun. They look like they're having a really good time.
Mm-hmm.
We have a really good time as we watch them.
Yeah.
That's just right off the bat on the surface. Also just, I guess, the visual way that Tim Burton works appeals to me. I'm a fan of his. I like his movies. I like how gothic he kind of makes things. So just on the visual level, this is a Batman film that I like compared to any of the others. Batman's never been a character that I've grown up with or have cared too much for. Superheroes in general have never been my thing. So right off the bat, when I come into the podcast, I'm learning right away what superheroes even mean to society, what they meant to Derek and Joe, and even Jason to an extent with Transformers. All of that has not been in my childhood. It is really, horror has been like the major part of my childhood, which is awesome, but also kind of crazy as well. So which makes sense why I like this one.
Yeah.
And then I just get a chance to kind of show what I see. But Tim Burton looked at these characters, and he didn't find anything fascinating about Batman either. He didn't know who this character was. And I think that's the point of Bruce Wayne is he is this person that is hidden, that is repressed, that doesn't like to be seen, and that goes out of his way to not be seen. To the length of even putting on a costume and fighting crime. And the way he approached this film was not about him being a hero and fighting crime to save a city, which is what I, on the outside, interpret superhero films to be. Tim Burton made this a character study on Bruce Wayne.
I think what sets this apart from a lot of other superhero films is that this does feel like a Tim Burton film. Like, this is a very auteur, despite the fact that it is, you know, handed down by Warner Brothers DC, despite the fact that these are Happy Meal toys, there is something really authentic and artistic about it that I think makes this movie really special. I think it sets it apart. It is wildly different than the comic book interpretation, especially Penguin. But I think this is what I find fascinating about when we were talking about adaptation with Pinocchio, right? The letter versus the spirit. And I think Batman Returns captures something so fundamental about the Batman mythos, especially when it comes to duality. That theme. There is something so brilliant that Burton is doing in the story with these three characters that I really am drawn to it. For that reason, I'm drawn to its uniqueness among other superhero. There is no other superhero film that treads this line. There is a seriousness. There is a gravitas to the drama. There is a lot of thought put into the screenplay. But also at the same time, there is so much ridiculously. There is so much fun. It is very hard because with Batman in particular, you either get really bleak, serious Nolan, BVS, Snyder, right? Or you get campy Joel Schumacher, Batman and Robin, Adam West, Batman. This is a very hard line to walk. Very, very hard. And it's the only Batman movie that I think really does it well. Because Batman is both of those. If you read the Batman comics, he is dark, serious, and brooding. There is also the camp. And I can't believe I'm saying this on the podcast. This movie might capture that better than any other Batman media minus the Arkham games.
You heard it here, folks.
Arkham games are sick.
Those still can't be topped for me.
So I didn't really grow up liking Batman. Iron Man was my person. Spider-Man was my brother's. I mean, my oldest brother's was Batman. So I knew of Batman, but the Dark Knight is kind of when I got into it. With Joker and stuff like that. But again, with Nick's movies, there's always something behind it. And so, so even in watching it, I'm like, okay, like I was pulling a Derek. I was like, what is Nick seeing in this movie?
Which is why I'm so happy Jason picked American Psycho. Because that was me. That was my reaction to Jason. I was like, why is Jason picking this? And it was flipped on me. And then it was revealed in this like incredible way. So I was like,
congratulations, Nick. You did not pick the most disturbing movie in this series.
Achievement goal comes over your head. But
I'm getting one too.
I just Penguin is such a tragic. I have two notes about Batman Returns because I was so like invested into the movie. Penguin is like evil Moses. And Penguin is such a tragic character.
That's what Burton's into.
But it's just a sense of starting off his trauma like became like as a baby, and because of that trauma, it led him to do horrific things. And again, he's also reaching out in some kind of sick, twisted way. Also, but he has a family of penguins. He has like he has goons like that are like with him all the time. Like you could tell in the background, he's looking for some type of, in a sense, community.
Well, he's put in the basket just like Moses. He's basically floating down the river, but he's not heading towards security. He's heading towards uncertainty. And it's no surprise, you know, again, I mentioned the penguins, right? What they represent. They're birds that can't fly. They're confined to the cold. But also, I mean, what are penguins doing in Gotham, by the way? That's a whole other conversation.
For real. How did
remember the zoo? It was a zoo set.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. Thank you.
That's enough realism.
Yeah.
But that's enough realism.
The Madagascar penguins let him into the sewer, and then these are the generations afterwards. They've lost their way. And
But-
he's become their new skipper.
Yeah,
Well, and he's also
Jimbo.
surrounding himself with the circus, with the
Yeah.
carnival people, right? That's what Penguin surrounds himself with these people. They're criminals. They're on the margins. They're on the outside.
Yeah.
And Penguin's mentality, the tragedy is that this is all he knows is the carnival. All he knows is what he can devour.
Yeah.
And so even like later in the movie, you know, when he's being propped up to run for mayor, I didn't know what to do with this at first, but then he bites
By
the
somebody's nose,
person's
yeah.
nose. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. That's the carnivore, right? That's the carnal
That's all he
coming
knows.
out.
He's literally-
Because when he's treated in this way, yeah, go ahead.
He's ripping apart like dead fish and just eating them.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's what he knows, both literally and metaphorically as well. And I think that's the tragedy of his character is that when you see his solution to the problem is we're going to kill all of Gotham's firstborn, very, you know, obviously there's an Exodus play there with Pharaoh and Moses and all that stuff. But that is what he resorts to. That is the default for
See,
him.
evil
So,
Moses.
In the documentary Shadow of a Bat, I think it's on YouTube,
yeah.
but Tim Burton says you can find the psychological profile of Batman and Catwoman and Joker, but the Penguin was just this guy with a cigarette and a top hat.
Yeah.
He was like, what is he? And so Burton came from a place of who exactly are these characters and what motivates them. And so he took Penguin and he transformed him. And what I think he did is he transformed him into like a visual manifestation of Bruce Wayne's own trauma.
Yeah.
Because he was a
Oh,
child abandoned.
Yeah.
Mhm.
When he was young,
Yeah.
he was also born into privilege.
Yes.
And he was abandoned, but through crime, Penguin through his parents giving him up.
yeah.
So they have the same,
They're
a very,
linked.
very
Yeah.
similar wound.
Yeah.
And so what Burton did was he took Penguin and blew him up
Mhm.
into an actual man beast,
Yeah.
Yeah.
whereas Batman's pretending to be a man beast.
Right.
And then it goes to your favorite scene of what.
Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on.
I will.
That is what was like, whoa, this movie is much deeper than I realized.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
well, Penguin usually is like more of the Max Shrek in
Yes.
others. Like
yes.
he, like,
in a lot of mediums.
like Oswald Cobblepot is the son of the Cobblepot. Was it franchise? Like they were into like hotels and stuff. I think. Am I getting
something
that
like
right?
that. Yeah.
Yeah, but they directly competed with Wayne Industries,
Mhm.
and the Cobblepots like basically lost that competition battle.
Right.
Yeah.
And so,
So that's why he goes
Yeah.
towards the mob and bringing that.
yeah.
Yeah.
in-
So Oswald is like the corrupted Bruce Wayne
Yes.
business side
Yes.
that is just bitter and angry and like
Which is who.
is turning to crime, and that's usually like the Max Shrek.
That's and it's
corruption
brilliant that
of him.
Burton still kept that in there. He just
Yeah.
created a new character to deal with that.
Yeah, and put him like in the complete pit of that, like cast
Mm-hmm.
aside and just into the sewer.
Well,
So
the sewer is important, I
Yes.
think. So
yeah.
the movie opens up. Do you remember how Bruce Wayne's introduced in this movie?
He's sitting in his chair. The light goes up for him, and then he just stands
He's
up.
sitting in his chair with his chin on his hand in the pitch
Pitch
black,
black,
dark
yes.
of his
Yep.
mansion.
Uh-huh.
Bruce Wayne's introduced without a thing to do in his personal life.
Yes.
He's got no purpose
He's just
until
waiting
until
until
that
that
scene.
bat signal shines.
That's right.
Yeah.
He stands up and becomes something.
Yes.
Yeah.
He becomes something. That is juxtaposed to Penguin now in the sewer. So in the recesses of Batman's mind, in the sewer, this Penguin is dwelling. This
Yeah.
monster is dwelling. And that's where I see the connection.
Yes.
It even goes as far as Penguin saying to Max Shrek when he kidnaps Shrek to bring him down, he says, "I'm ready, Max. I've been down here too long. It's time for me to ascend."
Yes.
So the issues that Batman has not been dealing with while he waits in
He's
the dark
repressed.
is repressed. It's coming up. And
Ooh.
Penguin's saying, he goes, "I'm from like you."
Yeah.
He just points to the sky and says, "I'm from like you." And it's so dramatic.
I
Yeah.
thought of a connection too. So normally with the Batman stuff, Batman falls into like a deep cave, and then the bats come to him, and that's
Yes.
why he becomes Batman.
Oh, wait. That's another, we can get there later.
Okay,
You're talking about the
okay.
end?
Yeah, no. I'm just talking about with Batman's story in general. That's normally what happens to him.
Mm-hmm.
So just that connection of
He's
them both.
born in that sewer.
Yes.
He's born in that deep, dark place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think what the mansion represents is Batman retreating. Batman's
Yeah.
in his own interior world.
Yes.
And the Batcave is him further retreating into that interior world.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
good.
Yeah.
So Penguin ascends
Mhm.
and he's on TV.
Yeah.
And Batman or Bruce Wayne is watching the TV And now all of a sudden he's being semi-confronted with his own personal issues, his need for his acceptance, the trauma of, his childhood.
Yeah.
And I noticed the first thing he does, he watches it, and the next thing he does, he goes straight into the Batcave to research Penguin.
Yes.
So how I interpret it is the second his emotions came up,
He retreated.
he could not deal with
retreated.
it. And he went to his mind and said, how do I figure this out? What is this?
Yeah.
And he's going further into that state. And he's not alone. He's with Alfred. Alfred is representing his conscience.
Yes.
And so
he has an Alfred.
Yeah.
Penguin doesn't.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he's engaged with Alfred, and Alfred goes, this is the quote that Alfred says, and this is why I think Penguin is a brilliant character. Alfred says, why are you now determined to prove that this penguin is not what he seems? Must you be the only lonely man-beast in town?
Oh, he even calls him a man.
So
beast?
his conscience is, Batman is not a man-beast.
Yeah.
Batman is putting on a costume
yeah.
to become a man-beast because he's trying to transform his childhood wounds, whereas Penguin is the actual man-beast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
good.
that was my big light bulb moment. I texted you. This was like probably about at least a year ago. We had this conversation, and I texted you and I said, "Oh, I think I got something with Batman Returns. Penguin is born a freak. Catwoman becomes a freak." But Batman chooses to be a freak,
yeah.
which is why Penguin throws that retort at him.
It's really cool how this ties into American Psycho and that's why I put the gloves on, because what is Patrick Bateman, who is so repressed and like wanting to be identified by people, but he's just holding it. What does he wear all the time?
Gloves.
Gloves. He wears gloves all the time. So he talks about his cold gaze that he hides. He has the mask that he pulls off of his face at the end of his routine, where it reveals like just how empty he is. He wears a mask. He conceals himself with gloves.
It's an ice pack over his eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like literally, like, oh, that's cool. But like, there's a concealing that gloves represent, because our identity is also in our fingerprints, in the prints of our hand.
Yeah.
Batman's keeping the gloves on and he's keeping the mask on.
Yeah.
That he's choosing to do this when there's so many other avenues that he can take, but he wants to be
Well, he's bound. Batman's bound.
Yeah.
Bruce Wayne is bound by Batman. And I can kind of get into that a little.
Yeah.
And so what happens? So Penguin comes to the surface. The world is enthralled with Penguin.
He saves a baby just
He saved the baby to enter into the world.
Yeah. That's Save the Cat, by the way.
Yeah.
He's using Save the Cat there.
Yeah.
Eat the cake.
Yeah.
Anime.
For those who don't know, Save the Cat, basically, if you want to establish someone as good, you have them do something
Heroic.
heroic
Yeah.
right off the bat. And that Penguin is reading Save the Cat.
That fits.
Yeah. Anyways.
So him and Max Schreck have this partnership.
Yeah.
So they make that deal in the sewer. They need each other.
Make that deal? Damn good deal. If you flush it, I flaunt it. One of my favorites. One of my favorite lines.
It's a really good line, too.
Yeah.
That might be the third best line. Well, actually, no. There's like a million by Penguin.
There's so
That's
many
true. Yeah.
good ones.
There's a moment where Batman does a little investigating. He figures out that Penguin's a crime lord. He confronts Max Schreck, and he says that he's going to the mayor. And so Max Schreck, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But it does, because what he does is manipulate Penguin into becoming mayor.
Yeah.
So Penguin doesn't really choose it. Max is like, hey, we can do this. And Penguin's like, isn't the election 11 months from now?
Yeah.
Or didn't it happen last month? And he's like, oh, we can finagle it.
Yeah.
Because Max Schreck needs to cover himself.
Yeah.
And then Penguin likes the idea of power. He likes the idea of being seen. He likes the idea of, finally not being in the sewer.
Right.
And now being on the very top.
Yeah.
So Penguin is running for mayor of Gotham.
Yeah.
Okay. At the movie's midpoint, one of the best scenes happens, and that's when Batman confronts Penguin. They meet each other, and it's this slow, dramatic showdown. They come close to each other.
Yes.
And what's cool about this scene is, I believe they're basically the same person. They have the same lines in the scene. They say the same thing in the scene. Batman and Penguin, Batman's coming face to face with his own issues, his own repression. And the scene goes as following. Batman says to Penguin, "You're not the mayor." And Penguin responds, "Things change." And Batman replies, "What do you want?" And the first direct jab at Batman is, the direct approach.
Yeah.
I admire that in a man with a mask. The camera cuts the Batman for like 5 seconds.
Yeah, really, really long.
It is so
hold.
uncomfortably long. It's like just Batman's unable to escape or run or put on a mask. He's naked in his costume.
He's caught.
Yeah. It's not subtle. It is so overtly like shocking. Like, pay attention. And then Penguin continues, "You don't really think you'll win, do you?" to Batman. And Batman replies with what? "Things change."
Yep.
So they're literally just going back.
They're Batman's in his mind fighting his inner demon.
So that's, remember the nested loop for Inglourious Bastards? That's a nested loop conversation, their nested loop scene. You know,
and in the
you're
middle,
not the mayor yet. Things change. You don't think you'll win. Things change. And what's at the center of that? What's the heartbeat of Burton's exchange there? The direct approach. I like that.
Yeah,
man
that's
with a
right
mask,
in the middle.
because that's really what the scene is all about. Is calling that out.
That's sick.
And reverse, right? So it's that nested loop from Inglourious Bastard. It comes back in a scene.
The next thing that happens right after that, Catwoman does about 20 backflips into the scene, and she interrupts the conversation. And this is important because this happens 3 times in the film. The second all 3 of these characters for the first time meet, the second that Batman starts to have his mind like really challenged, there's an explosion. As soon as Catwoman says meow, boom, there's a huge explosion. And that's the first sign that Batman's starting to crumble.
He's breaking.
And so Penguin is not just running for mayor for Gotham. These characters are trying to control Batman's identity. Gotham is Batman's mental landscape. And Penguin's trying to run for mayor.
And trying to control
That's
his
so
game.
And in comes another side of the schizophrenic character that we all love, Catwoman.
Yes. Okay, so let's back up and talk about her now, because Catwoman for me is, I think, my favorite part of the movie. I think Michelle Pfeiffer's performance is one of the best in a superhero like comic book movie. The fact that she actually learned how to do all of those whips and stunts, that's all real.
On
that's
the
her.
First take, that's her swinging the whip and hitting every mannequin on the first take.
No
and then
way.
jump roping in high heels.
No way.
So that stuff is dope.
So she's dedicated.
That's
so.
Gotta give it up.
Yeah. So do you want to walk us through kind of Selina Kyle and how, like, basically how does she get to that moment where she's Catwoman and challenging Batman?
Even going back further, so Burton had to address Catwoman and how he was going to depict her.
Oh, by the way, was that his choice to have Penguin and Catwoman, or was that given to him for this?
I am not positive.
Okay.
I'm not positive. But one of the writers or maybe one of the animators in the same documentary, Shadow of a Bat, Alex Ross states, she was this beautiful brunette dressed up in a green dress, but nothing flamboyant or superheroine or villainous, talking about Catwoman in the earlier comics. And she would eventually go on to wear a purple and green outfit that suggested aggression. So Catwoman had this aggression to her instead of this like extreme sexual tension.
Right.
So Burton adorns her with a black skin tight latex bodysuit that's stitched together like her own. So her mind is stitched together.
Her body is stitched together.
She's fractured just like Batman is fractured. So Penguin is a product of privilege being abandoned. Catwoman is a product of men. She's murdered. She's physically abused by men.
Right.
And Batman's family was murdered.
Right.
So they're mirroring each other in the same way.
Right. But she comes back. That's the difference. By cats licking her.
Yeah, literally.
Okay, get it in. It's one of the weaker points.
That is honestly, I think, the weakest
Again,
point
we
for
already
the movie,
threw
but
logic out the window.
That's
all right?
true. I think the duck boat and the penguins with rockets is more believable. But
It is.
But that's okay. I forgive it. They have that mirroring scene where earlier she goes, "Oh, I'm home. Oh, wait, I forgot nobody lives here." Right? And you're kind of seeing her like through her kind of mundane life. And then when she dies, she actually experiences a resurrection of sorts because she goes through the same cycle, but she's not going to take it anymore. Probably the scene I most enjoy watching is her trashing her apartment, and Jason, you caught this. Yeah.
I don't know how you caught that. I don't know who's paying attention to that.
I don't know. I just saw that. I'm like, she's going to take away 2 letters. It's going to say hell here. And it's like, oh,
instead of hello there. Yeah. Brilliant. Like that over the topness and that kind of stitching together a new identity that is more true of who she believes she is and her going out in that. Because Batman, there's always an argument in every interpretation. Is Bruce Wayne the mask? Is he the human? Is Batman the mask, right? And I actually think different directors interpret that differently, slightly differently, right? But I think it's clear in this movie that when they are Penguin, Penguin is always Penguin, but when he's Batman, she's Catwoman, like that is the truest form, but it's a broken version of that identity.
It's not even real because they're still behind a mask. So
right.
It's not a full love or like a full connection because they're still hiding a piece of themselves.
These two characters are dealing with a duality that's at the heart of the film.
Yes.
They're going from these extreme poles of Batman and Catwoman to Bruce Wayne and Selena Kyle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In real time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because they were real. Oh, sorry, Jason.
I was going to say when Bruce and Selena, like, they're together and, like, it's good, but that's also not saying that's not their true selves, but like that's when they're hiding their identities, but they're Bruce and Selena, the chemistry is building and they're starting to realize what's in common. But when they're Catwoman and Batman, where like that's the masses representing themselves, that's when they're fighting. And it's interesting that it ends up that way.
Yeah, no, well, as I was watching it, I was like, this is a perfect metaphor for marriage.
Yeah.
Like, when we are in conflict with each other, even relationships, we're wearing our mask.
Yeah.
And so at one time we're vulnerable, we are this other side of ourselves, and the next we're throwing chairs at each other. And we have a whip and we're fighting and we're on the rooftops shouting and screaming. And then we're on the ground level connecting.
And then when they do finally connect fully, when they realize that who they are as their secret identities, they still embrace each other. They're not like just, oh no, I can't, like you're Catwoman, I can't be with you because you're a villain. Oh, you're Batman, I can't be with you.
Wait, hold on. They don't embrace each other just yet.
Well, because it's an acceptance. They still accept each other due to their faults, but they're still so tied to what their goals are that they can't fully go ahead and connect like that.
Yeah.
So
Catwoman can't.
Yeah, Catwoman, because Bruce is willing to let it go.
Yeah,
right?
so hold on.
Okay.
We'll get there.
You're putting it together.
Yeah. But let's just remember that Catwoman at this point, she feels so yummy.
Yeah, no, but the thing is, Catwoman is as repressed as Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
She's finding an authentic voice in her.
She's got, she's got a taste, like literally, like that's why I think the yummy line works.
Yeah.
Because she has a taste for something.
Cool.
She has a taste for something new. And like, whereas Penguin, again, this kind of carnivorous, like, wants to devour everything, right? She, as this woman, she's the femme fatale archetype.
Yeah.
The seductive muse, the one who wants to go out and take control when she hasn't felt like she's had that control.
Yeah.
Like when she goes to Max Schreck, she kind of turns the tables on Max Schreck. When she's with Bruce Wayne, she's kind of flirting with Bruce Wayne and not afraid. So there's something that she's getting a taste for and trying to take back a sense of agency.
Yeah.
She's engaging with that agency, trying to walk it out.
Yeah.
There's a really cool shot that I just wanted to mention. There's a shot of Selena Kyle looking into the department store window on the street. And she's just staring into the window, and you see her reflection, and she's asking, why are you doing this? The next moment, Bruce Wayne's face comes into that window, and it's side by side with hers. So she's essentially saying to both of them, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Bruce,
so good.
Batman's being attacked from beginning to end in this film.
Yeah.
Bruce and Selena in that scene, in a couple of these scenes in the movie, they kind of feel like Michael Corleone and Kate. They're in a different movie.
Yeah.
They really are.
Oh, yeah.
They're in a different story.
And it's Christmas time.
And and it's Christmas
Another
time.
Christmas movie.
Yes. Tie this to the Godfather.
This is a Christmas movie. 100%.
Absolutely,
We
it
love
is.
our Christmas
But
movies
but I
on
do,
this podcast.
but I do think that's the tension that those characters have is they are getting a taste for a better story.
Yeah.
But is that better story the story that brings them meaning?
Are we at the
I have to think
point?
about that one. Bruce invites her over to dinner,
Mm-hmm.
and they're at couch. And first of all, another thing that they do with Bruce Wayne's character in the film is they compare him to Citizen Kane. So the mansion, the opening shot, the behind the scenes, they took inspiration from Citizen Kane.
Okay.
So here is this lonely billionaire alone in his mansion, this big Gothic mansion with all these shadows and Art Deco designs. not only that, the fireplace that they're sitting in front of is the same fireplace in Xanadu, in Citizen Kane's
Oh, dope.
That's awesome.
film. The fireplace is huge. It's like a 15-foot high fireplace.
That's wild.
And they're having this conversation in front of that fireplace as an homage to Citizen Kane.
Okay.
That's awesome. I didn't know that. That's cool.
I have never seen Citizen Kane.
That's gotta
We'll
that's
get
gotta
there.
come to
We'll
the
get there.
podcast
So
one
if
day.
you break it down,
so
then
important.
We'll get there.
Are you gonna explain it a little bit right now?
No.
Okay.
That's
It's
so
too
funny.
much.
It's the nose.
Audience
from you
will
too.
find out.
Our audience knows Citizen Kane, right, audience?
Yeah.
They're in front of this fireplace, and then things start to get intimate.
Yeah, but it's still not fully intimate.
They can't get there, though,
Yeah.
because Selena starts to press on the wound that she gave Batman. And Batman starts to press on the wound. Bruce Wayne starts to press on the wound that Batman gave
They're
her.
literally pressing on each other's
Yeah.
wounds. That's awesome.
And that's like
And it
kind of what,
hurts.
that's like
Yeah.
kind of what intimacy is.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
But the thing is, with that, when you're pressing on a wound, you're not supposed to just pull away from each other. When wounds are pressed, you're supposed to dive deeper into each other, and
that's
not.
the tragedy.
Yeah, and they're not.
So what they do is they split and they put on their costumes
Yep.
and they go and fight crime immediately.
Mhm.
And they go to Alfred and they say, Alfred,
They
tell
each-
her tell her it's not her and I just gotta go. And she goes, just tell him a dirty limerick.
Yeah.
And Alfred goes, one just sprung to mind.
It's the same conversation.
They're
Yeah.
That's a good line.
It's
They're
the
good
same
for
thing.
and they're good for each other. You
They're
can
so
see-
good for
yeah.
That's the problem. Is like they're so good for
I think
each
this
other.
is my favorite relationship Batman has had.
Oh,
in this
it's not
movie.
even
Yeah.
Rachel Dawes. Forget
Rachel!
it. Forget it. Vicky Vale. Forget it. Nothing.
Another just quick line that is really funny is when Catwoman is on top of Batman on the rooftop.
Yeah.
And Batman goes, Catwoman says, you're the second man that tried to kill me this week. And Batman says, I tried to save you. And Catwoman goes, every woman you've ever saved has either ended up dead or deeply resenting you.
Dang.
Maybe you should just retire.
Dang.
Again, from
Yes.
every character,
Yes.
from every angle, Batman's getting deconstructed.
Yes.
Yeah, dang.
Whoa! How did I not even remember
Right?
that line?
We'll get right back to the conversation after this. But first, question for you. Have you ever wondered if there is social media for film nerds out there like us? A few years ago, I discovered something called Letterboxd, and it's an app that allows you to log and post your thoughts about your favorite movies. It acts as a diary, and I found it incredibly helpful to keep track of what I have watched, what my thoughts are on those films, and what films I want to watch in the future. In fact, we're on there for the Live a Meaningful Story podcast. All four of us have individual profiles, but we also have lists that help us stay organized and keep track of what films we have covered and what films we plan on covering soon. Now, what you might not know is this particular episode on Batman Returns stems out of a really incredible in-depth article that Nick wrote on Letterboxd. And so that amazing, remarkable intro that you heard is taken directly from that article. If you want to hear more of our thoughts on films that we don't always get to cover on the podcast, then I encourage you to check out our Letterboxd profiles in the show notes here and in the description below. Feel free to create a profile, follow us on there. We'd love to see what films you log as well. We'd love to understand your taste in films and read your thoughts on the films we discuss here as well. So go ahead and join us on Letterboxd and let's keep the conversation going.
So now we're at the ball.
All right, hold on. Before we get to
Yeah.
the ball, just a couple other things to fill the audience in. So Penguin, the campaign for mayor obviously doesn't work out. He tries to...
Well, it was working out.
It was working.
It was working
Until
And I think
Bat-
that's
Penguin was straight winning.
Yeah, I was
for
gonna
a
say, and I
while.
think that's a big thing too. It was working.
Penguin
Like
was catching
that's
dubs.
that aspect of, if we're talking about this is Bruce Wayne's psyche.
Yeah,
Was
yeah.
lo- he's losing.
He's losing to that, and he's
Yeah.
losing his mind and his soul. So what really brings him back then?
Well, he reclaims it because when Penguin hacks the Batmobile...
Wait, before this, the conversation between Penguin and Catwoman in Penguin's apartment, I guess you could call it. Like,
His
if you
apartment.
think about this, that is like a cinematic representation of the Screw Tape Letters.
Oh, yes.
These two inner demons are coming together to try and take over
Yeah.
their host.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing. And Penguin goes, we have the plan right here. We're going to steal his car.
Yeah.
That's what that was.
And you still have an issue with
Whoa.
the sexual nature of Catwoman in that? Because I still think it fits, like, with that scene, especially with what you just said about the demons coming together. There is something almost sexual about that.
If you present it like that, it makes sense. I can get by with that framing. But the very end, Catwoman allows herself to be sexualized by Penguin, and that's the very thing that she's fighting against.
Yeah.
And so that part, she got what she already needed from him, and then she lets him have something. And I don't think Catwoman would let go that far.
Yeah.
But if they're just these demonic, kind of careless, then they're just indulging in that.
Yeah.
But I do think that she maybe perhaps lets him have it as well, because again, it comes back to the freak thing. She's become a freak like him. There's a sense that he's not like other men.
Yeah.
And I think she's granting him something in that. That could be a stretch.
Yeah.
But possibly, you know. But
also, the bird she puts in her mouth was real.
Yes.
She kept that in her mouth.
So good.
Yeah.
Jason, what did you think of that? What did you think of her putting
No
a bird?
birds were harmed in the filming of that movie.
I felt at ease. I was like, okay, he's gonna be all right. This is a stunt. He is a trained
Mr. Norman.
I was like, this is probably a trained, paid stunt bird, and he
was compensated well.
He was on a contract. He understood. Thought he handled it very well. But no, I wasn't disturbed. I was more like just glad for the representation.
So Penguin hacking Batman's Penguin hacking the Batmobile is an invasion of intimacy. It shows that he's diving deeper into Batman and getting underneath, literally underneath. Because now Batman, in this very confined, dark, vulnerable place of the Batmobile where he typically has all the control, he's lost control completely of the narrative.
Yeah.
And on top of that, all he can hear is the demon. All he can hear is Penguin just laughing maniacally, right? But this is where Batman starts to take agency back. So he figures out how to disarm that. And then on top of that, Penguin is giving the speech. He's on the steps, right? Which, by the way, 15 years ago, I went on the Warner Brothers studio tour. We should all do the Warner Brothers studio tour. One of the stops they take you on the studio tour is the courthouse.
Oh, really?
Where Penguin, the steps, right? And they tell you to stand on the steps, and they say
Batman won with a confession. With
yes,
it's a Penguin's confession.
Yes, he turns it against them, right?
He wins but even further later he does too. But you can also stand on the steps and try to shoot the crowd from 5 feet and see if you can miss every bullet like Penguin does.
Yeah,
he has a machine gun umbrella and misses the entire crowd.
Well, he completely, but he's lost it at that point.
Yeah.
Like he's lost focus.
Another important thing with Penguin here is this is now the second time that he was abandoned. So when Max Schreck just kind of shrugs and leaves him for the crowd, the reverse shot of Penguin, I felt as really tragic. He just kind of growls because he's now abandoned twice.
Yeah, he knows.
This is the second time. And
that's when
that enriches his character.
Yeah.
Yes. But there's sadly nothing redeemable left in the third act.
What that leads to, he goes, I'm an animal. I am not a human. I'm not Oswald. I am Penguin.
Yes.
And it's over for him.
And because of that, I'm going to go ahead and have my revenge.
Yeah. He wants
kill all the firstborn of God. That's pretty rough.
Yeah.
This sounds kind of, that's what does he say? That's a little bit, the gangster guy. He goes, killing children. Don't you think that's a little?
Yep.
No, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah. But okay, now I feel like we're at the ball. We're there. I just wanted to get us all caught up to that.
Well, everybody seems ready for this, so y'all can go first.
We're at the ball. Okay. Jason, go ahead.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
What? Okay, cool. So I thought that what we were talking about with American Psycho comes into play here because there's these two sides. The repressed side and then the side that's shown to the public, that they're both confessing to each other. And so they're both revealing this, or it is revealed now, and now they have a decision to make. So the potential for intimacy is there now.
But wait, there's something big we're missing, though, with this scene, is the fact that they are at a masquerade, and they are the only ones that appear to not be in costume. Yeah. That is the key.
Right.
Is they are dressed as themselves, and Max Schreck, I think, even makes a joke about Bruce Wayne, right?
This is a huge joke, I think.
Yeah.
So he set the stage. This is a party where everyone is wearing a mask.
Yes.
And Batman walks in without one.
Yep.
And Selena.
Because that is his mask.
Those are the masks.
Yeah.
Yes.
Max Schreck comes up to him and he goes, great costume. Let me guess. Trust fund goody goody.
Yeah.
So Max Schreck is now saying, who are you?
Yes.
Even while you're not wearing a mask, who are you really?
Dang.
So when Batman when he's in the costume, he's physically being attacked.
Mhm.
When he's out of costume, he's being psychologically attacked
Yeah.
by all these villains.
Oh, then I may have misread this wrong, actually. So Batman goes, "You made a monster out of the mayor of Gotham City." He turns to Max Schreck and says that. Max Schreck first takes his mask off. Max drops his mask and he says, "I am the light of this city. I am its mean, twisted soul. Does it matter who's mayor?" And then Wayne replies, "It does to me."
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that it does to me. And the very next line is Max Schreck going, "Yawn." It just
Very Christopher Walken like.
just yawn. And he walks off and Bruce Wayne's like, "Huh?" And then turns around.
That's funny.
So I kind of thought that even in that moment, Bruce Wayne's hiding behind his idea of heroism, that he's still not quite himself.
Yeah.
And Burton was like, "This is not about you saving a city."
Yeah.
Because the next shot is him turning around and Selena Kyle walks down without a mask and he feels something different.
Yeah.
Now I think something authentic arises in this entire room of masks when he sees her unmasked.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I interpret it.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're
But-
totally.
But there's another way of if he's getting attacked with the mask and he's getting attacked psychologically without it to just try and confuse him. That was kind of cool too.
Yeah. I think it's all of it because then you have them together in the room. And it's a scene that really, I think it's the scene I feel the most emotion in the movie
100%.
because you want them to be together. You want him to stop being Batman and to settle. You want her to stop being Catwoman and to settle. You want them to try to figure it out and make it work. And then that line, once they realize it, and Selena says, "Does that mean?"
This is the best line of the movie.
Yeah, go ahead. No, you do it. You do it.
This
Go
is
ahead.
the best line
Do
of
it,
the
do it,
movie
do it.
to me. So she confronts him. She says, "There's a big, comfy California king in bedding. Why don't we go over there?" And Bruce Wayne says, "And take off our costumes." That's what he says.
Yeah.
When they say the line where they say the mistletoe line and they both kind of draw back and they go, "Oh my God, the person that I'm in love with is also an enemy of mine."
Yeah.
The first thing Selena Kyle says is, "Does this mean we have to start fighting?"
Yes.
Yeah.
That hurts.
That is tragic,
Yeah.
honest,
Mm-hmm.
is relatable. It is her in real time trying to integrate this dualism that she and he have been fighting the whole time.
Yeah.
And the first thing that she can think of is
You have to fight.
they can't
Yeah.
further connect.
Jeez.
But what happens is that they walk off together.
Mm-hmm.
Bruce Wayne grabs her and Selena Kyle accepts it.
Yeah.
They embrace and they walk off together. That's a major moment in Batman's psyche and what happens next.
Oh, Penguin, but
Another explosion.
And
Rise up and
up rises Penguin.
with
And
his
what
tugboat.
does he say? "You didn't invite me, so I crashed."
It's so good.
Yeah, that's good.
The moment he takes a step
Yeah.
forward, Penguin slams the top hat on the duck boat.
Dang.
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
That's
how
good.
it is
Yeah, that's good.
sometimes.
So good.
The best. I'm watching this and I'm going, I feel so tightly connected to this film in my own life, but like this is smart. It's so operatic and theatrical and funny. These characters are all having a good time. It's a visually good film. The costumes are good. The screenplay is good.
Yeah. So if that's the thing, him walking off and then an explosion happens and it draws him back because he's been trying to walk forward. So what do we take with that? So every time we try to take a step forward,
Not every time, but in this time.
Yeah.
And he's still got work to do. He's not whole yet.
Yeah.
He's made a step, but I think just in real life, when we make forward progress, we get attacked harder.
Yeah.
And so Penguin's got one last attempt
Explosion.
left. And so we are now at a point, Penguin has this plan to kill all the babies in the city.
Yeah.
He has taken Max Schreck down to his lair.
Yep.
Batman is going after him. The ultimate plan that Penguin has is that he has his army of penguins strapped to rockets.
Giving a woke speech
Yeah.
about equality of the sexes.
Well, when they're blown sky high, everybody's equal.
Yeah.
Also, one of probably the best scenes in the Batman universe. That moment right there with
Where he's
Penguin.
giving this. I remember you would send us just that speech, the clip of that speech all the time.
It is high
Forward march.
It's so good.
The little animatronic penguins walking with their little missiles. That was good.
Some of them were not animatronic.
Some of them are real, yeah.
They just straight up strapped
They just
penguins up
strapped
and
rocket.
just let them wander the streets.
Burton was like, all right, how
many penguins can I get?
How many penguins can we get? We're just going to strap some rocket missiles.
Some are real and some are
Yeah.
mechanical.
Yeah.
But there's a lot that are just wandering. They're just touring the city.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
they're just having fish in front of them, trying to
Yeah.
dangle it
Yeah.
to lead them down the road.
That's hilarious. I love
I
that.
want to see the
Much
behind the
respect.
scenes.
When you compare that to Bane and Dark Knight Rises giving liberation to the city, I'm taking Batman Returns every time. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Penguin is a liberator far greater than Bane.
Bane was,
And
yeah.
I will die on
I
that
want
hill.
the dunk.
Bane was
dunk
a
on
fake liberator.
I will also die on the hill that I think the live action Penguin is Batman's greatest villain. I think it's better than Joker. Whether that's in the comics, I don't care. I'm talking about this live action cinematic film version of Batman's villains. Penguin is his greatest nemesis.
It's on record.
And because he's his greatest nemesis, leads to this line right here. When Penguin and Batman collide, when Batman's Batmobile collides with the duck boat in the greatest crash in Marvel cinematic
DC.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Not
It
the
doesn't matter.
greatest crash.
Penguin hops out of the broken duck boat, grabs onto Batman's neck, puts him in a chokehold, and says, "You're just jealous because I'm a genuine freak, and you have to wear a mask."
Yes.
And that is the line. That's really the line of the movie.
Yes, it is. It is.
Yeah.
And I think by how Burton characterizes Penguin, that line hits so hard.
Yeah.
And what does Batman say to him? Does anybody remember?
No.
We are just fully just swept up right now.
Take us there.
You're the one.
He confesses.
Mm.
He says, "You might be right."
Mm.
And he steps back, and Penguin swipes at him with his pathetic umbrella
Yeah.
and misses. And he eventually grabs hold of the detonator. Batman does not fight back. He throws one punch to get him off, but he does not attack Penguin. And Penguin blows up the city himself, blows his plan up himself.
Yeah.
Penguin destroys himself, and he falls into the same pit that Batman originally fell in as a child.
Dang.
That's good.
The penguin,
Oh,
the
that's
bats fly out of the Batmobile,
Yep.
and take that trauma back to where it came.
Yeah, that's good.
Dang, bro.
That's good. Yeah, that was good.
I was like, shoot.
This is so full
That's
circle.
dope. It literally is all full circle.
Oh,
That's
man.
wild.
So when I before I got here, I was like, I still think The Dark Knight is thematically stronger, even though I've accepted the character work is nowhere near on this level. The filmmaking, like it is what it is. There's obviously a lot of technical stuff that's
Yeah.
good in it.
But
But now I'm questioning if maybe this is thematically richer and stronger than even The Dark Knight. Because that is the one thing I can always give The Dark Knight is like thematically, it's so confident. It knows what it's doing. It's really compelling, like how its theme is playing out.
Burton says in the interviews, he's like, "I'm not good with action. I just kind of put a car here, make a left here, and the Batmobile actually like lifts off the ground and turns in a circle instead of like skids to this like."
Yeah.
Burton is not skilled here. So when you
Right.
compare two films like that, which has one of the greatest set pieces with that 18-wheeler flipping over.
Yeah.
That's tough. But that's also, you can say the same thing on the other side. Nolan can't do the things that Burton is doing.
Yeah. Well, you take out that scene, you take out Heath Ledger's Joker,
Yeah,
which is easily the best thing in The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
And what are you really left with? Like, there's just not much.
That performance is so
Because even
big.
like the idea of duality, because duality is a theme in The Dark Knight as well, because they're trying to get Batman to confess who he is. Two-Face, there's the duality that's going on there. But there is so much richness that I think people, and including myself, sleep on this film. Because I think it's just there's way more there than I think a lot of people like me give it credit for.
Yeah.
And I think I appreciate so much how you've brought that out, and even like same thing we've talked about, like the Matt Reeves, The Batman, and you intentionally went back to rewatch that
And still
in
said it.
preparation for this.
Yeah. Still said it was strong.
And
the first thing, well, there's a lot of good in it, but the first thing that immediately, like the relationship between that Catwoman and that Batman is nothing.
Like how it is.
It is a very immature stage. It is like a high school college relationship, and this is, I think, a much more adult relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the things that we miss, you can watch American Psycho and be so blinded by the disturbing imagery
Yeah.
that you're missing all of the food, all of the business cards, all of the names.
Yes.
And I think there's certain things that we're inclined to be sensitive to when we're viewing movies that we miss other things, and together as a group, we kind of fill in those gaps.
Yeah.
That's so good. So good.
So Penguin is now done for a little bit. Until this brief
pretty much.
intermission. And now the final confrontation between Max Schreck, Catwoman, and Batman is in the sewer. It's no longer on the rooftops. It's no longer on the ground level. It's in the sewer, in the darkest part
of the psyche
of Batman. And so Selena Kyle is caught in between in the middle of Max Schreck and Batman.
Yeah.
So she's caught in the middle of the person that actually made her into Catwoman. And then on the other side, she's standing next to Batman, who is the version of her that she hates the most, which is that male savior coming to save women. The idea that women need this kind of character from men.
Yeah, because I mean, remember, every time she went into our apartment, she would say, "Oh yeah, I'm not married."
Yeah.
There was some sense of her with the voicemails and all the stuff she was surrounded with of like, wear this new Gotham perfume to attract men, right? So there's this narrative, again, going back to normative. The normative gaze, exactly, right? She is surrounded by that. It's getting pressed upon her.
Yeah.
And she doesn't want that, but yet Bruce Wayne is offering it to her in that final encounter.
And there's something that she still, there's some type of wanting of that too. Like she
deep
still
down,
wants,
Even in one of her voicemails, her ex-boyfriend dumps her.
Oh, yeah.
And then what's really slick, she says on the couch, like, maybe I should have let him win that handball game. It was really, really slick. Like kind of commenting on the weakness that men have. And that insecurity towards women.
Yes, that's good.
And so here she is right in the middle of Batman and Max Schreck. And Batman, what he does is the culmination of his character.
Yes.
Batman walks towards her and he goes, Selena, we don't have to do this.
Yeah.
We can take him to the police together. And what he does is he takes off his mask and he stands in front of Selena and the world as Batman and Bruce Wayne.
Yes.
Both instead of either or.
Integrated.
Yeah.
He's integrated.
Yeah.
He has become whole right in front of her.
Yep.
And here's the tragedy of the movie is that Selena Kyle turns around and takes her mask off to Max Schreck. Because who she is still that person bound by her hatred towards what has happened to her.
Well, that's why she kisses him too, right?
Wait, we're not even there yet.
Sorry.
That's the craziest part of this movie.
Sorry.
So we haven't talked about Max Schreck because he's really the third villain.
Yeah.
But he's actually the main villain. So Max Schreck is actually the villain of the film. And one of the quotes from the documentary is from the screenwriter Daniel Waters, and he says, "I wanted to show that true villains of our world don't necessarily wear costumes." And so in this movie, the costumes that Catwoman and Batman are wearing are responses to their traumatic experiences.
Yeah.
And Max Schreck is responsible. People like Max Schreck are responsible for those costumes. So I wrote in this review, the ringleader of this freak show is no human-animal hybrid. He's no Penguin Man. He's no Batman. He's no Catwoman.
Yeah.
He's just a simple businessman.
Yeah.
He's Patrick Bateman.
Yeah.
He's the Blob.
He's the Blob.
Yep.
Jeez.
And so there's moments in the film that really kind of show who Max Schreck is. Selena Kyle, when she discovers the plot that Max Schreck has to steal power from Gotham, Max Schreck simply just says, "This is my legacy. Nothing must prevent that." He says that he is the light of the city. He is its mean, twisted soul.
Yeah.
Max Schreck is the man that causes the pain that fractures the psyches of the world. Max Schreck is, the people like Max Schreck are responsible for the masks that people wear in the world.
That's dope. Dang.
And so what Burton is saying, Max Schreck, his plan to take over Gotham is to steal its power. He is building a power plant, but it's really a capacitor that drains Gotham's power.
Yeah.
So basically, he's draining Bruce Wayne and Selena Kyle's power because they have created these vows to go and avenge these things because of their trauma. These vows that promise them to give power to them is actually draining their power.
Yeah. That's good. That's good.
And so what Burton says in the film is that heroism is not these costumes that we wear. It's authenticity.
Yeah.
Heroism is authenticity. Heroism is authentically being who we are. Heroism is Batman standing in his costume without a mask.
That's good.
So good.
What takes down Max Schreck and Selena Kyle?
A kiss. Powerful one.
What else is involved?
Electricity.
A volt.
Electricity.
What else is involved?
The wire, the cord.
What else is involved? What does she pull out?
The whip?
No, she
The
doesn't pull out
taser?
the whip.
The
She
taser.
pulls out a
The
taser.
Oh, yes.
She pulls out a taser, puts it in between her and Max Schreck, and they both lean in to kiss it. What it's representing is a penis.
I was not expecting that.
What kills them,
Is a
what
penis?
kills Selena Kyle and Max Schreck is basically that abusive masculinity. What it kills them both, what takes down Max Schreck is his abuse of power, and that power from men is what killed Selena because she chose her mask at the end of the movie. What kills them is the image of these two characters basically giving oral sex. And this is a family movie. This was going on McDonald's Happy Meal.
Yeah.
Yo,
This is a Warner Brothers movie.
With all the things said in this movie, there's no way this is truly a
they
family movie.
They were very upset. Parents were very upset watching this movie.
Kids were running out of the theater crying. This is why
Nick.
Joel
Nick was
Schumacher was
bolted.
This is why they went in that direction with Batman Forever.
Forever,
This is exactly why. This was too far.
Yep.
And Warner Brothers let Burton make the movie he wanted to make. And
was like, we're gonna put the penguin eating people on Happy Meal toys. They're gonna love it.
The black oozing blood out of his mouth. The executives were like, I think McDonald's saw that and they're like, what is this? We can't sell this.
didn't we see on eBay the McDonald's you could buy all the
Oh
Happy
yeah,
Meals?
it's on eBay. Yeah, I was thinking
all the
about it.
Happy Meal souvenirs are on eBay.
I've been looking
much
for
do
a
they go
penguin
for?
for you, Nick, for a long time. I think from the time we went to the convention, I need to get
We
Nick.
just got to go back to MegaCon.
High key.
Yeah.
We found a penguin, but it was huge.
We need to get Nick some Batman Returns.
There's a quote that says from Tim Burton says when he's talking about his experience on the Warner Brothers set, he says they seem more afraid on this one as compared to Batman 89.
Yeah. Well, it's because Warner Brothers had a lot of control in Batman 89.
Yeah.
They let Tim Burton do what he wanted. And it says it did feel like there was a strange new type of pressure, but it didn't stop us from doing what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so when Warner Brothers told Burton to make a Tim Burton movie, Tim Burton didn't wear a mask.
Yeah.
Tim Burton was authentic. He did what he did, and we're all better for it. This movie is a great movie.
Yeah.
It's a unique, artistic piece of art that has a lot more depth than I think most people realize.
Well, it's a very Shakespearean kind of ending, too. The tragedy of Catwoman, obviously, and Selena.
Yeah.
Then you've got Penguin that emerges one last time.
Yeah,
And-
which this is the line. I always liked this movie. I was like, this movie's awesome, and this is the line where I was like, I love this movie because we're in the back of the car on the way home from MegaCon, and it's playing through the speakers, and me and Joe are watching it, and I watch Penguin pull out this umbrella as he's resurrected one last time as his weapon, and it's the umbrella with all the stuffed animals on it, and he goes, "Oh shit. I picked a cute one," and dies.
Yeah.
I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
Like then gets a penguin funeral. The penguins take his body.
Like
and
that's
immerse
not
into the
normal.
water.
That's not normal screenwriting. That is awesome.
Yeah.
That is funny. We're watching films to have fun and laugh and engage with the darker sides of us, but also it doesn't always have to be the American Psychos, though I deeply respect the ones that are blunt and just wanting to be in your face and go, you can't escape this.
Yeah.
You're going to have to deal with it. There's two styles, and I picked this one for the first time. But it doesn't end there. And so I don't know if Tim Burton actually meant this, because in his interview, he says it just kind of felt right. But the movie ends with Catwoman now calling and responding to the bat signal. What I interpreted it as is Batman is now kind of free from the bat symbol. He's not bound to it anymore.
Right.
This is now Catwoman's movie.
Yeah.
Catwoman is still holding on to that inner vow. She has chosen Max Schreck, and she's choosing her mask. And that's how the film ends. The movie started with Bruce Wayne answering the call to the bat signal. And now Catwoman's answering it. And I was like, dang, come what may, he's now Bruce Wayne and Batman, and his life is going to change.
Nick,
or has changed.
You've done it. You've taken us through Batman Returns.
Yep, this is now
good.
This
Convinced
is now
us why this is a
this
top
is
tier. Not just comic book movie. This is a great movie.
I think it does kind of transcend comic book movie. It almost, a part of me doesn't even feel like it is a comic book movie, but maybe that's because the comic book movies of today are so
generic. It's very different in comparison.
Muted and just kind of blander. Because this one is free.
Yeah, it is very free.
Yeah.
Very free. You guys have any final thoughts?
No, I'm very like happy with this series because it almost just connects like too perfectly. Everything, just the Blob and Max Schreck and the high ridiculous society of America, just our social sphere that causes so much damage and also encourages us to stay in that way, and just the themes of confession and integration and revealing ourselves to each other. It's been really, really interesting to see how we had all of these separate ideas that are now like coming and just meshing beautifully. And it's been something I've been very happy about with this friendship.
And I just want to acknowledge that this was Joe's idea.
Oh, I won't acknowledge that. Never mind. It's second favorite.
There's some other things I kind of wanted to say.
Go ahead.
The idea of villains, like we were talking about this before. I remember asking Derek something like, are villains supposed to show us who we are? Like the idea of villains are supposed to, they kind of mirror what's inside of us. And they lead us into becoming who we're supposed to be. So we need villains. And the stronger, the badder, the stranger the villains, the greater the story. It's almost like just the idea of it being harder to overcome, the better the story. And so that's why I think Penguin is Batman's greatest nemesis, because his greatest nemesis is what happened to him when he was a child. It's not necessarily the evil of the world in this story. It's not Carmine Falcone. It's not the Joker. It's not any of these things. It's what Penguin represents. And I think part of the reason why I picked this is I think, look at Bruce Wayne, Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne, and I see a lot of myself. I see a guy that is a little reclusive, a little hidden, a little repressed, a guy when emotions come up on the screen, retreats into this way of how do I figure this out? A guy that has put on a mask and fought crime in a way with ministry. I fought crime on the street. Basically the idea of wearing a cape for 7-8 years of my life. That gave me meaning, that I would wait for a bat signal to call and then I would respond. But the rest of my life was sitting in the dark. Until towards the end of that experience, Penguin said, it's time for me to ascend. And there's no way around that. Now the fight begins. And now these characters come into play. And now explosions in the mind begin to happen. And it's a messy process. It's uncomfortable. And it stems from the vows that I took and we take in childhood, the things not only we think we need to become, but that are actually a part of us as well, because Bruce Wayne is Batman. Bruce Wayne has that side of him that it's not black and white. It's not just this or that. And the struggle that he has of intimacy to connect to Selena Kyle, where these characters are wanting to connect and they pull back, and they push forward and they pull back, and they are sweet and then they fight. I think that's not just an experience I go through. I think that's a universal relational experience. And I'm happy because I relate to a film that is just so absolutely insane. Because it's just fun. It's fun to see rockets with penguins. Like, what
What were you
happen?
thinking?
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
That's good, Nick. That's so good. It's been a good month.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've all learned something about ourselves.
It's only been 5 hours.
So I want to end with this quote from C.S. Lewis about villains. So I think this will tie the whole series together. So C.S. Lewis did write Screwtape Letters, which is one of the best villain-centered stories. He talks about a book called Paradise Lost by John Milton, which is hundreds of years old. But it's the story of Adam and Eve, but Satan is depicted like you get Satan's point of view in the story. And so Satan is the most compelling character in Milton's Paradise Lost, which is perplexing. Why? Why would you make Satan the villain such a compelling character? And Lewis answers that in this quote here when he talks about creating villains. And this goes to what you shared a moment ago, Nick, about antagonists. So I'll end with this here. In all but a few writers, the good characters are the least successful. And everyone who has ever tried to make even the humblest guy ought to know why. To make a character worse than oneself, it is only necessary to release imaginatively from control some of the bad passions which in real life are always straining at the leash. Satan, and then he goes and lists a bunch of different villains, within each of us is always there and only too ready the moment the leash is slipped to come out and have in our stories that moment we try to deny them all our lives. But if you try to draw a character better than yourself, all you can do is to take the best moments you have had and to imagine them prolonged and more consistently embodied in action. But the real high virtues which we do not possess, we cannot depict except in a purely external fashion. We do not really know what it means to be a man much better than ourselves. His whole inner landscape is one we have never seen. And when we guess it, we blunder. It is in these good characters that novelists make, unaware, the most shocking self-revelations, because to project ourselves into a wicked character, we only have to stop doing something, and something that we are already tired of doing. To project ourselves into a good one, we have to do that which we cannot and become which we are not fully. It's easy to be drawn to villains because it's easy to tap into that sense of ourselves. But heroes and what we aspire towards, there's a lot of different ways that can get played out. And you'll see over the next couple months with the conversations we are going to have around the next set of films that there tends to be two places where we try to direct our yearning for heroism. Politics and religion. And that's where we're heading, y'all. So thank you, Nick, and thank you for joining us for this series. And until next time, I believe the word you're looking for is... Thank you for listening to the Live a Meaningful Story podcast, produced by All Things Narrative. If you'd like to learn more about our coaching, workshops, events, please check out allthingsnarrative.com. You can also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at All Things Narrative. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing and leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, and tune in next time as we continue exploring the stories we love and the stories we live. Take care.